Hey there, okay, so here's your Starseed reading. Now what we're going to do is look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with relationships and feelings involved, another important day, relationships, feelings, the death and lesson learned. And usually we get hints of time throughout, but this kind of thing, based off the type of reading, we can be off Earth usually, but not always. It could be other realms of Earth. It could be just interdimensional stuff. So we've just put the time away because the time just pertains to Earth as we know it, so we don't need that, the time card. Now, keep in mind, what we're looking at, the kind of beings, could be E.T. alien type of beings like we're used to hearing about, or they could be other things like pure consciousness. So just be open-minded as far as what kind of being we're looking at. And your job is just going to be to connect however you can, but don't force it. So whatever you might not connect with, tuck in the back of your mind for a later time, because connections and things click later on, after, days, weeks, months, even a year after this kind of reading, connections can be made. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so let's go ahead and start. I'm just going to relay images and impressions that are coming through, okay? So first off, what I do want to say is this is off Earth. This is what the imagery coming through is. The home planet is not necessarily where we are going, because it feels like there's something about mobility through craft. So the imagery coming through, they're showing me the interior of a craft, very large craft, and it's, I want to say, like dark steel. It's not like it's not like bright chrome or anything. It feels more like dark, and I feel like that's for a reason, having to do with the kind of beings we're looking at, needing it to be a certain dark level. So already the kind of connection you could be making is just even the idea of craft. It's mobility. It's obviously traveling through space, but mobility in the sense of freedom, travel. Are you someone that needs freedom? Do you like to travel? This feels like they're just, it's, you know what it is? The equivalent here on Earth would be like it'd be like going on a cruise that just circles the world. Like it doesn't stop. It's just like a nonstop cruise kind of thing. So it feels like that's it. It's like they're on the craft so much. It's almost like they don't go home, except for maybe once in a very long while. Kind of like how the military is, where they're deployed for a long time and they just come home to visit and then go back out. That's the kind of thing that this feels like. So you might even connect with that if you find yourself in a military family, or marrying into the military, or a military member yourself, where there's deployment involved, where there's going away for periods of time. So you might connect with the idea of going away from home for periods, long periods of time. And then so the dimness I want to get to, because you might connect with this in case either one, it could be that you have poor vision, or it could be that you have really good vision, but the light, like that your eyes might take in so much that light bothers you. You might be very particular to the kind of light that you can stand. So it's either the brightness of the light or even the color of light. Like, you know how they have like white lights and yellow lights kind of thing, like in a regular home kind of thing? You might find yourself annoyed by certain lights, or just not being able to deal with the brightness. Like you might need to wear sunglasses all the time, even on a overcast day, because it's still bright. So that kind of thing. So however you might connect with the idea of dim lights, it can even be that you just like to be in dim light. Like you might be someone that likes to read without turning the light on, you know what I mean? Or you might enjoy, your favorite time of day might be at dusk, like where, it's twilight, dusk, like a very light, so to speak. So however you might connect, and if you don't connect, that's totally fine. But those are just little connections we could be making already. So let's go ahead, and what I'd like to do is go to this card. This is the con card. So this card might, it kind of means like con artistry usually, but it's not necessarily that. It's about the mind. And so the mind of a con artist, the feeling is strategic and intelligent. And it feels like the beings we're looking at, first of all, the beings are, I want to say how they're appearing is upright like a humanoid, but they're built in a way that's very strong. Almost like it's almost like, how do I, they're like, it's like their skin is armor. It's kind of like that. It's almost like their skin itself is, I'm trying to, oh, I know. You know, when your feet or whatever, when it gets calloused, like really, really calloused skin, it's like that. It's like the outer material of the body is like a very callous, thick skin. And I feel like that also goes along with these beings. There is something about it when I was laying the cards where the feeling of them, the word, what is it called? Combative came to mind, where these beings it feels like they are built for combat, built for withstanding forces, like almost like I want to say these are fighters, or these are, yeah, it's like they're fighters. So like, and they're showing me like they do have like material over their bodies that's kind of like the material of their bodies as like a second skin or a second layer, and then weapons, whatever weapons they may have. So it's kind of interesting. I've never, you know, seen this stuff before in particular, but the beings themselves, they feel, how do I put this? It's like, if you go and look up like reptilian, so there's a bunch of ET races and we don't even know that half of them, you know, we only know a few, but the closest I can come to giving you like a visual would be if you were to look up reptilian and not get bothered by it, because reptilians are not always bad. They might have like a combative nature, but it doesn't mean they're bad. You know what I mean? It's just like humans. There's good, there's bad. Like there's, or, you know, labels, good and bad. So don't like be put off by that. I'm trying to give you more of a visual. So yeah, it's almost like that kind of thing. So anyway, however you might connect with that, by the way, it could be that you even like reptiles. If you like reptiles or amphibian, like those kinds of creatures here, that could be a connection as well. If you, the opposite connection would be if you just absolutely despise reptilian animal creature things, you know what I mean? So anyway, we're getting here because this is speaking of a direct connection would be if you are strategic and intelligent. And I almost want to say utilizing your strategy, it's almost like the feeling of being a very like good researcher. So it's like almost like having information to utilize for strategy purposes. And this can be as simple as like making sure you get the best deal for something. But this can also be someone who is smart and strategic when dealing with people as well, in order to get the outcome that you want. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment here. Like that, that would be a direct connection. So also we want to talk about this combative nature feeling. So a direct connection would be if you feel, I want to say, if you feel like throughout your lifetime, if you've had like a little bit like something having to do with like anger or butting heads with people, or having something when it comes to like, you know, if there's like authority figures, like you just butt heads, like you needing to be the authority of your own life kind of thing. So when you come across someone who thinks they have authority over you, butt heads, that kind of thing, we're looking at combative. So this isn't meaning that you're fighting, like it doesn't mean that you fight, you know, it just might mean that you might feel certain emotions that put you on edge when it comes to, I want to say people more than anything. So basically it's kind of just that. It's like if you notice that you're on edge, maybe have anger come in and out of your life, like bouts of anger, and then but it really comes to autonomy, like with your life, like you wanting to do what you want with your life, that kind of thing, but in a way where it's not, hold on, you wanting to do things with your life in a way where, where you might be aggressive about it. And aggressive, almost I want to say, it would be mentally or emotionally. That would be a direct connection. Kind of like putting your foot down. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. The opposite connection would be in this life if you are passive and if you go along with the flow, and if you just find yourself kind of like bebopping through life, just like, okay, you know, like everything's like easy peasy kind of thing. I know life is not easy peasy for everyone all the time, but overall, you know, if you're cheerful, if you have like a bright disposition, that would be an opposite connection that this being here feels like they don't have. So you as a human might be that way just to experience something very different than this. But you want to make a connection with that, because if in the case that you do find yourself kind of angry or maybe even like holding grudges or combative or aggressive, you know, again, only even if it's just in your mind, you know, and your emotions rather than, you know, physical, if you find that at all, it's an echo of this. There's nothing wrong with you. It would be an echo of this life where it feels like this being, just by his nature, I'm going to say his nature, it feels like if there were genders here, it would be a male. Just by his nature would be aggressive, would be that way, would be combative, brought up that way. So we're looking at someone who is kind of a slave to his programming here. So in your current life, you might find that you're noticing how you are programmed a certain way where your life is a certain way because of how you were raised to become, if that makes sense. And if you're noticing that, this would be a message for you just to like start to become more and more aware of how you're living your life according to how you were taught versus how you might actually want to live it. So like take stock of your life and see the areas where it might be stirring up combativeness, anger, frustration, lack of you know, like lack of choice, like that kind of thing. And those are the places you want to look at to try to get to shift out of that. And I feel like when you shift out of those places where you feel limited, it's going to help ease any of these feelings that we're talking about if you connect with that, okay? So just something, you know, food for thought, and, you know, take it with a grain of salt. And if you don't connect, that's totally fine. Just tuck in the back of your mind for later time, okay? So keep making connections here. We're going to the first important day. This is the War card, and the relationship with this is soul groupies. So these are like your people. And I feel like it's the people on the ship at the very least. They're your people. The feeling here is distant and removed, and this is speaking about how your people, even being your people, do not emotionally connect really over anything except their mission, which is on the craft, which feels like there's something about these people almost that feel almost like piracy. It's almost like going from place to place, and it feels like they are almost like paid off to do certain things. Like yeah, it's like they're paid off to go to, let's say, a planet and plunder the planet, like pirates, like planet pirates, I guess. So by the way, if you've ever been intrigued by or pulled to piracy, and I mean, it could be like the fun pirates, you know, from Disney or whatever, you know, or it could be like piracy, like legit reading up on the history of it or hearing about it. If you see it in movies, like realistic piracy, like that kind of thing, if you find yourself drawn to that, that's what we're looking at here. Well, I've never had a space pirate, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, we're looking at this here where it's your people and there's not an emotional connection, which can mean in your current life, if you look around at the people you surround yourself with or have surrounded yourself with, and you find that there's just, it doesn't, almost like the connection doesn't go past a certain level, this is a connection to that. So it's almost like the feeling of needing to get away from what you've known to really expand, and I want to say like dig deeper into emotional connections if you are finding that you want something deeper with people. It could be friendships or romantic. If you feel like you haven't gone to a depth that you feel you should, if that makes sense. Almost like you haven't been there yet, but you know there's something more. It's that feeling. Like, I know there's something more to this. I just haven't come across it yet, but I really want to. But you don't even know how to articulate it because you haven't experienced it emotionally yet. That's what we're talking about here, because these only go so deep. It's like surface level connections. And it feels like it's just because that's a product of who they are. So in your current life, and now here's the thing, the opposite connection would be if you in your current life are like super emotional, you make sure that you nurture relationships and make sure that you connect with people, and it's been that way, and you've been about emotional connection and that kind of thing, which would make sense too because you're human. So you coming out of this and being human now, it would make sense that you would want to explore and discover all the layers of emotion that aren't discoverable here. But if you're finding that you have blocks up in your life where it's hard to pull back the layers, then that could be from here too. And if that's the case, I feel like the message in that is get away from who you know. Get away from what you know. Go outside your comfort zone and just try being open to nurturing a relationship outside of what you've known, kind of like as a experiment, if you will, and allow yourself to indulge in being vulnerable and open and emotional in ways that you feel like you might not be able to now with your people now. Okay? But that's only if you connect with that direct connection. The opposite, if you're like emotional and you connect all that, then that's great. You know what I mean? So just connect however you can, all right? Sorry, foot. Okay. So, let's see. Hold on. Now, here's the thing. Because these are your soul groupies here in this life, if you see any of these people in your current life, if they have come here with you, the energy, the feeling they would give you are people that you feel connected to, you feel tied to, we should say, almost like how you would with parents or siblings, because, you know, like, we tend to think of them like, oh, we're stuck with them for life kind of thing. But it would be people that you feel tied to, but don't give you emotional fulfillment, or you notice they get uncomfortable if you try to discuss something emotional. If someone's coming to mind when I say that, that person is very likely someone from here as well. So it doesn't mean they're a bad guy. It doesn't mean they're bad just because they can't get emotionally connected. It just shows you why that might be happening is where they come from as well. Because oftentimes we see people travel, together, despite what shape you are, what kind of creature you are. And it's so, but it's still not a reason to stay with them or to make excuses for them. It just kind of gives you insight as to why they may be that way, and that it's not your job to fix them. Rather, just focus on you. If you want to expand in your own way, then go your own way. You don't have to bring them with you. Like, they're not your responsibility. So just consider that in the case you connect, okay? But keep making connections where you can. And this day here feels like there is just combat. It's like it feels like it's another day, but the difference with this day is it feels like people are prepared for you, like almost like they like know you're coming, and so they fight back. And I feel like that's unusual, because I feel like this group is very intimidating, which by the way, in your current life, if anyone has ever called you intimidating, that would be a connection. But it feels like people are usually intimidated by your group, so they don't fight back. If anything, they flee, or it's a surprise. Here, it feels like there's a fight back day, and you guys lose people, and I feel like it's the first loss in a long time. And it's interesting because the grieving process is just so quick. It's not even really there. It's almost like, well, he was in his line of duty, and he lost. It's kind of like that. It's almost like there's a win-lose thing here. Like, you die, you lost. Oh, well, should have done better. So there's not a lot of compassion here as well. So in your current life, by the way, if you feel like you are not getting enough compassion from the people around you, this would be a message for you to start expanding your social circles, or I want to say maybe putting up boundaries with people who might make you feel like you're a burden. If you ever feel like a burden to someone, that is a sign for you that you need to put up boundaries and spend less time talking, thinking, and being around them or with them. You know what I mean? That's just like a sign, right? Like, period. That's what's coming through here. Because it feels like for the lack of compassion here, it's almost like this, it feels like it kind of woke you up in a weird way, where it just gave you like it's almost like a flare of like something like this made, like, the lack of empathy and compassion did something in you. Like, it touched you in a way, and it made it like a flare up where it got you thinking. So I want to say also, in your current life, if you have those moments where you find yourself affected in such a way, again, it feels like there's people around you. It feels like I don't know who you're in touch with, but, you know, take stock of who you are in touch with every week, every day, whatever it might be. And maybe even, like, do a kind of thing where you just take turns with people, not talking to them for maybe a week or something, to see how you react or how you feel without their energy in your life, just to see if it gets better or whatever, you know what I mean? Just little experiments for your own self-awareness and growth and self-love. But back to this, on this day, it's, again, they're fighting back. So you also might be someone in your current life where you just, either one, you're good with confrontation, or you hate confrontation. It feels like it'd be one or the other, because here's so experienced with it, wanting to get away from it would make sense as well. But yeah, so anyway, something did flare up in you, and this is where things started to get moving. So allow yourself to be affected by people is what I want to say. That's basically what I want to say, is if people around you are cause for you to stop and think, like, am I happy? Is this right? That kind of thing. You need to make efforts to, again, lessen communication with those people and be open to people that make you feel like you are cared for, quite frankly. But again, food for thought, and just make connections where you can. We're going to go to the next important day, but last thing with the distant remove card, it's not just there's a distance and removed emotion from the compassion of caring about each other, it's you on this day taking a step back from your group. Emotionally, even though there's not a lot of emotion in general, it's you taking a step back in a way where you need to think about things. So this could be coming up in case you've been wanting to get away for like a week, or get away for a day, or take some space, take some time, just you time. This would probably, if you've been thinking about it, take this as confirmation. If you haven't been thinking about it, then consider taking a day away just for you, even if it's just a drive, you know, like a day drive. Sorry about the foot. Even if it's just taking a day and doing your own thing, it might give you a lot of insight and also give you answers to things you might be wanting answers for. Like just a breather. Not even a day to like not to go and ponder, but just to go and allow yourself to be and just see what comes through, what thoughts come through, what emotions come through, and just like kind of be there, and don't try to force anything or don't try to dig deep. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to effort so hard. It'll come if you just give yourself space and time and allow yourself to be. That's the feeling here. So keep making connections, and we're going to this day here, the next important day. So long, farewell, until we meet again. And this is the karmic card. The feelings is light of love. So what's happening is, in a nutshell, because of this, you take that time to think and you decide to leave. It's almost like being discharged from the military kind of feeling. And the karmic card, it's like I feel like you form karma with yourself, because on this day, you form a mission in your heart or your soul or whatever. It feels like a new mission takes up space in you here. And the mission is to find deeper meaning to things and connect more with the feeling you felt when you saw the lack of compassion. It's almost like the flare-up made you want to go find it again. And I feel like that's what you did. And you're walking away, and the karma card is for yourself, making a promise or a pact with yourself to find it again. So if you find in your life that you come across instances in your life often where you need to be showing yourself self-love, compassion, self-empathy, self-healing, that kind of thing, recognize that those instances are coming along for that. instead of looking at the issue, look at what it's causing you to do within you, which is to self-soothe, self-care, self-love, coping skills, self-affirmations, like that kind of thing. If you find yourself in those places in life, it's because your soul is looking to feel things, and it's looking to understand various levels and depths of emotion that we're lacking here. So when you're aware of that, what you're able to do is kind of send out a message, we can say energetically, to say, bring me opportunities that allow me to feel my emotions in the gentlest way possible, so I don't have to undergo like true hardships in the case that you do. So if you're finding that these have been if you've had hard lessons to learn, so to speak, in life so far, you can send out a mental note, like a mental thing to the universe, to, hey, you know what? I've had a lot of hard lessons and I've learned, but I'd like to move forward learning in a gentler way. Thank you. Like that kind of thing. Because you can do that, now that you're aware of what's really going on. So yeah, and it'll be things like for example, if you're not in a relationship, it'll send you someone to love and to feel loved back. That way you can explore emotions in a gentler way, rather than sending someone to break your heart and experiencing emotions in that kind of turmoil kind of way. You know what I mean? Because there's different ways. They're all experiences though. So the best thing you can do is, even if it hurts kind of thing, just take a step back, like an out-of-body look at things, and understand that it's all just experiencing emotions. The blanket mission here is just you experiencing emotions. And now you get to dictate whether it's a gentle instance or if it's a hardship. You know what I mean? Like, you get to determine that. So, which is good, because once you're, that's what's so good about these readings, is like once you're aware of certain things, you can really take control over certain things and see things for what they really are. But make connections however you can. And yeah, the Light of Love card is about self-love, okay? So just keep that in mind. Keep making connections. This does talk of liberty, striking out on your own, independence, in case you find yourself in a time in your life, either now or coming up, where to follow your dreams or follow the pull in your heart, like your intuition, if it's pulling you a certain way, if it means you going solo or going somewhere, walking the path alone, so to speak, and it's like something you need to do, like for yourself, I would say do it. What's going to happen is it's going to give you such a sense of self-empowerment, confidence, liberty, freedom, discovery. There's so much that comes with those kinds of hard choices. If it is a hard choice, sometimes it's an easy choice, it's not about like walking away and never speaking to anyone. It doesn't have to be that way, but it can. But it's mostly the whole thing here is about following your heart, and like it's almost like your intuition leaving you a breadcrumb trail to follow. You just have to like take that first step, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So just a thought, and again, what you don't connect with, tuck in the back of your mind for later time. But that is what we're looking at here, so make connections here. We're going to go to the Death card. So the Death card is the accident card here, and I feel like the accident happened because there were circumstances you weren't used to, because it feels like being on this craft almost, I want to say, your entire life. You weren't really used to, I want to say, again, being solo and then away from these missions, like this kind of lifestyle. So even though you're capable, this aspect is very capable and confident and strong, it's like, I want to say, there are places he went where he wasn't welcome or shouldn't have gone because people saw his kind. Actually, it's a translation of, what would it be? Is it like racism? But alien racism. So, I mean, just bear with me, but that's what this feels like. It's like going to a bar in a place in the universe where only certain kinds are welcome, and his kind isn't welcome, but he goes in anyway, and then he gets, like, killed because his kind aren't welcome. That's the best way I can put it. That's the only way I can put this, quite frankly. So, how you might connect with that, if you feel different, if you feel like an outsider, if you feel like people, if you're paranoid about people treating you differently or like an outsider for no reason kind of thing, or even if there is like reason, it would still be kind of like a deep knowing of that or a deep feeling of it, regardless, you know, something about being different. If you've just always felt different, let's see. Yeah, I think that's like the only connection here. Oh, and you, this could translate also in your current life if you are like activist, but it'd be more like pro equality treatment of people, anti-racism, just, you know, that kind of thing, where you might get triggered when you read or see or hear about like inequality happening just for the simplest things, like going to a bar but being the wrong kind of person, like that kind of thing. I guess, you know, especially with what's going on in the world, there's a lot of stuff going on, so you might be getting triggered a lot. But anyway, if that really deeply triggers you, it's also a connection here, because it would be an emotional trigger that would be just, it would run kind of deep kind of thing. So just something to keep in mind, and make connections however you can, and if you can't, that's fine, tuck in the back of your mind for a later time. But yeah, so this can also have you, someone, like, have you being someone that looks over your shoulder, like you're, like, feeling like someone's just gonna, like, attack for no reason, because here it was, like, not anticipating it, just there for an innocent, like, drink, and then getting attacked for no reason. So if you feel paranoid about that, and you don't know why, it feels like it would be an echo from here. Alright, so just keep making connections where you can, and we're gonna go to the lesson card. And this is awesome because this is the let go card, which is like everything we were talking about here. It's about letting go of the wrong kind of people, letting go of the wrong kind of thoughts, letting go of the wrong kind of, and I hate to say wrong because there's no wrong or right, but when I say wrong, it's those things that are not benefiting you, are not serving you, are not making you feel good, being able to cut ties, let go of that. Then here, letting go of his lifestyle in order to pursue the thing that he just caught a little flare of, but it was enough to spark an entire new life. That's all that's needed, is a spark. So I also want to say, don't ignore the sparks, because they can mean, that can mean the difference between a okay and good life versus an extraordinary life, following that spark. But he let go of everything he knew in order to follow the spark. And I want to say that that's your intuition, and you have that. Like, you are able to listen to all, like, you have all the answers in you, and they come up at the right time. You just have to listen. And it's kind of just easy to stick with what we know. And I'm not saying not to, you know, but there is something to going outside of your comfort level, or going outside of your comfort zone, even if it's just baby steps, you know, just little things, and you'll see the results. You'll see it will yield rewards when you take risks like that. Okay. So anyway, keep making connections where you can here, and there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.